Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, progressive post-COVID-19 sustained recovery can be realized through North-South, South-South, and triangular cooperation and collaboration. Caribbean countries ranked as middle-income democracies and as small island development states, even before pre-COVID we were already advocating for a better deal, a new economic order that would witness a change in the criteria to receive certain types of assistance that was not pegged to GDP, which excluded them from assistance and concessions. This approach ignored the special vulnerabilities of SIDS to certain types of natural phenomena like hurricanes and earthquakes, which could wipe out their GDP and set them back in terms of development by decades, which has already occurred in recent times. There's no real respite for Caribbean territories in the path of destructive hurricanes, which are increasing in intensity due to climate change, the effects of which place a disproportionate burden on SIDS. There has been much advocacy pre-COVID by SIDS for greater resources to be made available internationally to address climate change. Before the arrival of the first case of COVID-19, CARICOM countries have been using various multilateral and bilateral fora to call for rollback and understanding, lobbying for the region not to be cut off from the international banking system, from corresponding relations with the major private banks in the global north, which have threatened the banking system in our region. All we are saying is that we need the chance, a fair chance and a call for equity so that we too can achieve a 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Greater resolve is required for us to work together in a spirit of genuine multilateralism. The efforts of many countries to rally behind the World Health Organization with the pledge of hundreds of millions of dollars in the fight against COVID-19 are commendable. We must come together to work with the Pan American Health Organization so that this body can continue to assist entities such as the Caribbean Public Health Agency. The Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, has intimated a 4.4 increase in poverty, 28.7 million persons in 2020 compared to 2019. This is further exacerbated by a minus 5.3 economy retraction, resulting in over 12 million persons unemployed in the region. The global supply chains are floundering, and small fragile states are forced to look within, building on local capacity as the methodology for self-reliance and survivability. The new normal per COVID-19 is wreaking havoc on the tourist-based economies of the Caribbean region. Director of the Division on International Trade and Commodities, Ms. Pamela Cook-Hamilton, at the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development revealed, and I quote, "The pandemic is also expected to have a longer lasting effect on global tourism than on other economic sectors. This is especially alarming for small island development states. The tourism sector is a significant driver of GDP and supports many other sectors directly and indirectly." The Operation for Economic Cooperation and Development estimates there will be a 60% decline in international tourism in 2020 because of COVID-19. This could rise to 80% if recovery is delayed until December. In short, they have stated that some of the suggestions that we can look at, and I quote, measures to ease illiquidity constraints of enterprises through sectoral funds, social security and fiscal payment, exemptions or deferrable fast and subsidized loans, sensible relaxation of regulations, and taxes on travel and tourism activities. There's no denying that diversification matrix is critical to the sustainable economics of SIDS countries dependent on tourism. I know, in fact, we are pressed for time, so I will be short. I will make my entire speech available. World Wide Web inventor Tim Berners-Lee has stated at the United Nations high-level meeting that the COVID-19 pandemic demonstrates the gross inequality of a world where almost half the population is unable to connect to the internet. He said, and I quote, "Our number one focus must be to close the digital divide. This alarming disparity may have well been the reason many persons were not informed about COVID-19 protection protocols, for example, like social distances. Remittances in the Caribbean region has been grossly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic because of job cuts and restrictions. The World Bank report in 2015, the Dominican Republic receives most remittances by far, US 4.65 billion in total in 2014, Jamaica 2.26 billion. The United States is the main source of remittances, while in Europe, Spain 23% and Italy 21% are the main European sources of remittances. I wish to submit that the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the 2030 Global Agenda, presents an ideal roadmap for post-COVID recovery. Apart from that, there is a very important issue that I wish to raise, and that has to do with the fact of lending and borrowing. However, I cannot forget that no one should be I cannot forget, and no one should, the universal, collaborative, successful attempts by doctors, nurses, and caregivers of all nationalities and religions aimed at saving the lives of those stricken by COVID-19 in the ICU wards of hospitals all over the world. I ask myself, why cannot we have a togetherness, a human economics, just as collaborative, just as inclusive, just as empathetic, just as solution-oriented as what obtains in the ICU hospital wards of pain, anguish, and sorrow? In dealing with and alleviating the COVID-19 epidemic fallout, there's an obsession with fixing now, not tomorrow, through excessive borrowing and debt augmentation. We are running the risk of creating an albatross on the backs of future generations. In the Caribbean, there is a sense that the world's richest nations have not responded in adequate terms to the declining economies of SIDS. The G20 countries, with great fanfare, have pledged to inject some $8 trillion into the world economy. What is ironic is that several of these G20 countries is in the Paris Club. The club has not been progressive, looking at debt relief in a progressive manner as we would have hoped. It is estimated, finally, that Caribbean economies have been so compromised by August 2020, there would be a loss of some 30% GDP. In this regard, the United States, the principal Paris Club member, and Congress can dictate the pace of progressive debt relief overall by holistic policies. The Federal Credit Reform Act of 1990 mandates that Congress must be involved in any official foreign country debt relief and notified of any debt reduction and debt renegotiation. Finally, the Paris Club is opposed to rescheduling of debt payments. And in this regard, what is required of this noble institution is not an institutional social responsibility, but rather an institutional social conscience. Thank you very much.